Welcome back, everyone. Snapping around episode 3. And boys, last week we did our Eastern Conference predictions plus a lot of the awards. This week we'll cover the Western Conference and just touch more on what those teams have been up to late in the summer here and around training camp. But just a recap here from last week. We'll go ahead and just show everyone what our predictions were here. So boys, just kind of go through what we all had. Obviously, so the Heart all had different ones. Trav went the easy way out with McDavid. JC with Jack Hughes. I went Makar. Norris, Cale Makar, clean sweep. You guys both said Shesterkin for Vezina. I'm thinking Vasilevsky's rebounding. Obviously, our Calder's are Michkov, Celebrini, Hudson, and Jack Adams. We said who we said. It's kind of a coin flip from there. The Art Ross, the Rocket, and the Selke, we each kind of took a stab at that. We had Hughes, Pasta, and Heischer. So again, we've published these all on our social medias here. Make sure to follow Snapping Around on X and Instagram, and just rip on these if you want. But how we feeling, boys, since last week after the awards? I mean, anyone second guessing some of their things here early, or
I still need a couple weeks before I start second guessing that, but no, not really, not yet. Anyways, my not yet. Jack Adams is looking good after the weekend, though.
it's going to take maybe a few weeks to figure out kind of where a lot of especially awards are going to fall out. But quick recap our Atlantic divisions here. Like I had Toronto, Boston, Tampa, Detroit, Buffalo as wild cards, Florida, Ottawa, and Montreal. JC having Florida repeat with the division title, Toronto, Boston, Tampa, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal. And then Trav, you're going with Toronto, Florida, Boston, Detroit as a wild card, Tampa, Buffalo, Montreal, and Ottawa. So fairly similar there for the most part. I mean, we kind of said it last week too. The Atlantic's maybe one of the toughest divisions this year because even the bottom teams we figure are going to be up there pressing for like a decent number in terms of the standing points. So anything, I mean, obviously there's been a few more news, especially with Swayman signing in Boston now again. Anything changing for you guys on your feelings for your Atlantic standing predictions?
Yeah, I might have the Sabres too high at 6 after
You
watching that display on the weekend against New Jersey. They might be the basement dweller of this division.
Hey, at least you don't have them making the playoffs again. Because I had that. Yeah. This is the second straight year I've called them making playoffs. So,
I mean, I said last week I had Boston first, but the Swayman thing kind of wasn't certain yet. So, but I'm fine with sticking with what I've got. Like, we'll just see how it rides out. But
yeah, obviously, it's so hard to tell too, because teams are just going to make trades here early to maneuver around like cap and injuries and all that, and then the trade deadline changes everything as well. So, again, predictions are only good though for early season, and it's just fun to see how terribly wrong we do. The Metro, this one, JC, you kind of basically your reaction last week to this whole thing was good because I went down mine and you and I had team for team. No prior communication about that, but Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, Islanders, Penguins, Caps, Flyers, Blue Jackets. The big difference, obviously, for us and Trav was he has the Flyers as a wildcard team finishing 4th. We all kind of have the Rangers, Canes, and Devils as the big 3 in this division. And I think, to me, this division, we kind of touched on last week, it's there's your your for sure playoff teams. There's a bunch of middle ground teams, and then there's the Blue Jackets. That kind of a quick, fair assessment of what we're all thinking this division's going to be.
I think so. I think that's pretty fair.
I mean, touch on like you look at what the Islanders have done there in terms of roster. They waving Pierre Engvall on what his second or third year of a 7-year deal at like 2.5, 3 million per. That's
an oopsie.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter was all for that. I think on Sunday when Engvall and Justin Hall got put on waivers by their teams, like Toronto fans were just having a heyday during that.
I kind of thought that was a question mark of a signing from day one. It wasn't one that I was like, that's terrible, but I was like, oh, like, I don't know. And
I think it's the term on that one that really got everybody off guard. So I don't think he's like that bad of a player, but I mean, if it's like a 2 or 3 year deal for that, then probably nobody's really batting an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was one where because he was coming off a pretty good year in Toronto and he was looking for something. So Lou basically said, here's 7 years and for security, but you're taking a cut for pay per year type thing. So no, it's obviously, again, I think the Metro again is easy to just know who the top teams are, and then the rest of that is we'll see how it plays out this year. Jump over to the West though, boys. This is maybe where we touched on a lot of this in our final episode of last season with free agency. Just the activity that happened around all this with Seattle swinging big with Stevenson and Montour, Nashville making their big moves. Is this just one where certain teams took those big swings to make sure they got into the power of the Western Conference up with the Dallas, the Edmonton, the Colorado? Or is this one where a lot of teams were thinking, we just got to take a big swing just to show our fans we're taking big swings?
I think for like Seattle, because of that down year they had after, making the playoffs and like making to the second round, then they just really fell flat last year. I think they had to do a bit more roster reconstruction there because they had a lot of missing pieces. But at the same time, I don't know if like Chandler Stevenson's going to be like in the top tier of 2Cs around the league, but maybe they're probably hoping maybe Shane Wright can maybe take over that, and then Stevenson does like a 3C, and you're kind of got an LA thing going on where you have like a pretty good depth centerman kind of who can be 2-3 in a shutdown. Then you let Beniers and Wright go at it, but that remains to be seen with Wright. I think that was like pretty steep. I like the Montour signing for them, like for the couple years he had in Florida. That kind of provides them with a bit more offense from the back end because it was basically just done before.
Yeah, the Stevenson one, I think, is when you look at it, it's bringing in a veteran center that is a capable middle six guy. That's just going to, especially when you look at the centers around the Western Conference, Seattle's just going to basically say, okay, so when we play Edmonton, Stevenson, you're going against McDavid. When it's Colorado, you're going against McKinnon. Vegas, you're going against Eichel. They're basically essentially trying to free up Wright and Beniers to just play more free and probably play a little more offensive minutes than have to worry about trying to play shift for shift with the big dogs in the West right now. But we touched on this last week too, the injuries with preseason and all that. Trav, I'll let you take a stab at this. What do you think the effect on LA is going to be with Drew Doughty not available for 2-3 months?
Yeah, that's a big loss for them. He's still playing big time minutes for them after all these years, and this is a team that I personally think is taking the largest step back this year. And maybe that's a bold prediction to some people's opinions, but obviously we're going to get into the standings a little bit here, but losing him on the back end of a year that's I think is going to be a little bit rougher for them than the past couple is, makes it all the more tough down the road here.
Yeah, like you said, we're going to get in the standings here soon. But final thing before we get into our first divisional standing predictions for this episode, what do we think of the Eric Brandstrom and Poolman trade that Colorado and Vancouver made? Because obviously Poolman's coming in as LTIR, but when you look at Vancouver's roster, they kind of needed a player like Brandstrom, even though he's not starting the year on the opening night roster. But was this one where Colorado signed Brandstrom this offseason almost for a situation like this? Just showcase him, show that he's still a capable bottom pair number 7 defenseman for an NHL team, and then get an asset for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of like an insurance plan almost. Like if probably if like maybe an injury happened in preseason to maybe like one of their top 4 defensemen, but then Malinsky kind of came in and kind of just said, I'm taking a spot here. I don't really care who's above me. And, DeHaan, Shillington, or Brandstrom. So I think it sounds like through like CMAX presser day, that was kind of like the defining factor. And Colorado needs all kind of the cap help they can get right now for the first little bit. And I know it was a very complicated sort of process of transactions that I haven't really read or wrapped my head into, but everything that I've been kind of reading online suggests that was basically another, factor in the trade. But I think the bigger factor was kind of Trav's boy Malinsky just, lighting up preseason, coming into camp, probably, one of the most improved from last year.
Yeah, Trav, how big of an ego do you have right now with Malinsky's preseason?
Bigger than you guys.
That's
obviously,
okay. That's not a high bar though.
Well, I obviously hold her to a higher flame than what you guys do, but I don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
No, I mean, we all kind of said at the end of last season, I think too, that it'd be nice to see Malinsky take that step, and just to see him take that step and dominate at times when he was like in his preseason games. Because again, Colorado did the safe bet; they didn't play a lot of their big guys, so Malinsky for a lot of it was given a top pairing role in preseason games, and he looked like the best defenseman of the 6 that Colorado dressed game in and game out. So it's encouraging to see him just take that step, and now it just further insulates that whole right side, and it allows them just have that righty lefty combo on each pairing. Plus, too, I mean, here's a guy, if he plays well enough, it's Josh Manson insurance for his injury history, and if cap troubles do pop up, it's maybe Sam Girard insurance, because he almost plays a similar type style of a good puck mover, but smart in your own end too. So it's definitely encouraging just to see Colorado starting to find guys like that. And then we'll touch on later here, Ivan up front too. But we'll switch over to predictions here now and start in the Pacific. Change it up from how we did it last week here. Just let's kind of run through each of our standings, and then we'll dissect them right after. So, Trav, if you want to go first and just say what you're thinking the Pacific's going to shake down as.
Up top, I got the Oilers. Next down, the Canucks. Third, I got the Knights. That's the end of my playoff teams. So I got dual wild card in the Central. Fourth, I got the Kraken. Fifth, the Canes. 6 Ducks, 7 Flames, and at the bottom remains the San Jose Sharks.
Your top 5, actually, yeah, no, top 5 are like exact of mine. Except I got Seattle as a wild card.
Yeah,
I think bringing in Stevenson, bringing in Montier were big, and I think Beniers is primed to take a big step for them as a true 1C.
I think they're the first team out. Like they're the closest to not making it. Is I almost had them as a wild card.
Yeah, I actually have San Jose finishing 6th. I think they brought like just the moves they made. Obviously, their defensive group is still so thin and just so untrusting. But up front, I mean, Toffoli, all their veterans there just mixed in with Celebrini and Will Smith coming in. Plus, they got Blackwood, who played unreal last year for them. He just couldn't get goal support, really. They're going to score a bunch this year, and I do think they just have now enough young top end talent that they're going to really start to spring up the Pacific standings here. And then I got the Flames and the Ducks finishing 7-8 in that division. So, JC, what's yours look like?
My top 3 are the same as Trav's. Oilers, Canucks, Knights. I have the Kings 4th. Those 4 are the playoffs, so I have a split of 4 and 4. Then I have the Kraken, Flames, Ducks, and Sharks. I'm not as high on the Kraken as you guys are this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 4th, maybe even 3rd in this division either. I just don't think they have it yet. I think they need another year, but to kind of figure things out with their roster. I said the bottom 3. Really, other than the Sharks, I'm really not high on the Sharks like you are, Brock. Just looking at the roster, like more defensively, I really don't think they're going to be able to defend that well. I'm hoping to see more Askarov this year. I know he got sent down, which a lot of people wanted to rip on for, but he is injured. So I think
they're just giving him time.
Yeah, I think there's really no rush, and he's probably going to play probably just as much as Blackwood in the end, I think, of this season. He just needs to kind of get warmed up. Like, there's no point in throwing him in the NHL right now if he just coming off of injury. I think the Flames and Ducks are going to be pretty close to each other. Those teams could have been 6-7 either or. I don't really think we're going to see too much from either of these, but I think the Ducks just need another year or two with just how young they are. And, like Dostal kind of getting a full-time experience. Hopefully they trade Gibson. Sounds like Fowler is going to be out of there maybe sooner rather than later. So, it's just something to watch to see. Depends what they get back on. I was reading maybe Detroit would be like a decent landing spot for Fowler, since their decor is pretty shallow at parts. So, yeah, I can't wait to see like the Ducks and Sharks improve over the years. I just think they're still a little bit away from kind of climbing up the standings here.
I just think for the Ducks, because again, you had guys like Terry and Zegras come in, and then you had a GM change that right now they're so caught in a purgatory state of in between two different styles or two different visions of what they want to be. I think for them, they got to bring in some veterans to insulate guys like Carlson and McTavish, and like you got to keep veteran guys on the back end for guys like Zellweger and Minchikov, because like those guys need to. Obviously, they're going to get exposed to like top end talent eventually here, but you need to also bring in veterans that can help insulate them in spots too. And I just find it tough for Anaheim to like do that while trading off. So their best bet to me is trading off Zegras and Terry and try to bring in guys like legit NHL, like make a hockey trade for them. Don't just get futures, but Trav, like we all kind of had the Canucks finishing in second here. What's the big difference between them and Edmonton aside from the Connor McDavid factor, obviously?
Realistically, I think it just dwindles down to the start. The Oilers aren't going to start this season the same way they started last year. And I think that's going to be the difference in why Edmonton gets the division over Vancouver. I don't think it's going to be a landslide of a difference. Like, I think they're going to be neck and neck. They'll probably trade off at different points of the season. But the fact that Edmonton's not playing catch up for 3/4 of the season like they were last year, I think is just going to be the difference on why I have Vancouver at number 2. Between that and the Oilers just being, well, like you said, the McDavid effect, the hunger of losing after being so close last year.
Yeah, throw this out to both of you. What's a bigger deterrent on both these teams, the Thatcher Demko injury or just how thin the Oilers blue line looks?
Thatcher Demko injury.
Oilers blue line.
I say Thatcher Demko injury because I think in the regular season, the Oilers will be able to kind of hide a lot of their blue line woes with, kind of that top 8 or 9 forwards they've got to kind of, outscore. But, on the same extent, we really don't know what, I was about to say Stuart Skinner is, right?
Yeah, that's going to get confusing in Edmonton this year.
Yeah. So the goalie Skinner, I'm ready to see what it looks like as him as like, you're now like the guy. Cause he pretty much was last year, but they still had Campbell and there's still a lot of like ups and downs, especially with like the way the half of that year started. So I'm interested to see if he is the guy, because if he is, then he's got a lot of hockey coming because he'll be Canada's kind of guy. So there's kind of a lot of pressure on him, right? Because he probably wants to be that guy, and he knows he's got the best opportunity to take kind of these strides and probably help this team, make it back to a cup. So I don't really have a ton of doubts that he can do it. I just kind of need to see it because, those latter games in the series last year, he was pretty lights out. It's just early on he wasn't good, right? So, but I still think Demko is the bigger loss because we're not sure what Shilov's is, and I think the other goalie's Lankinen. Like, they don't have anybody else, right? So I think that is a way bigger hole on a team's roster compared to Edmonton's blue line.
I think for the Stuart Skinner situation is he showed everyone last year from about December, January onward that he is a number 1 goalie. He can run with it because right around then, that's when Campbell was down, and it's not like Campbell was ever in a like lighting it up in the American League to threaten to come back up and take Skinner's job. So I think just the ups and downs of last year with Skinner just showed that, and then him going into the playoffs just showed where he is mentally and how strong he is mentally as a goalie, that he can just ride those ups and downs, and it just makes him a better goaltender. But Trav, like you said, Demko, how big of deterrent is that for the Canucks in terms of like how almost like mistake-free hockey they're going to have to play to hold out until Demko does hopefully return?
I don't know if it's got to be mistake-free. Like I know JC said like we don't know what Shilov's is, but I don't think Shilov's has to be the goaltender that he was in the playoffs for Vancouver to, get by successfully in the regular season. Obviously, come playoff time, that's going to be an issue. But I think in terms of the regular season, even if Lankinen can be, put up respectable numbers, I don't see it having a tremendous effect on the Canucks, especially with the rest of that division. Like the bottom half of that division, Vancouver should be beating on the regular. But I mean, you never know.
That's going to be the key there is, there's teams in this division that these top teams should be. It's an easy 2 points every game. So, but again, that's why you play the games because you just never know. So, I think both situations are just going to be so interesting to watch because essentially these are a lot like almost the consensus top 2 teams in this division. The Golden Knights seem to have, I mean, their blue line is still stacked with talent, but beyond Eichel and Stone, they don't really have a lot of talent up front anymore. And their goaltending, yeah, but again, they have so many guys up front that are just injury prone.
One thing on Vegas, I will say is I think they're gonna regret letting Paul Cotter go, because watching him in New Jersey on the weekend, man, I think he's gonna have a pretty big year in New Jersey.
He is like the prototypical modern day fourth liner.
He's got quite a set of hands on him too.
Yeah. That's everyone's gonna point to the Marcia show, letting him walk, but it's a role player like Cotter that can really break a team. But any other notes you guys have on from Pacific Division teams here before we move on, or?
I could see Calgary finishing in the basement. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised.
Nah. Their roster is just so mid. Like, their number one center is Kadri, and everyone at this point knows he's at best a elite 2C, but they just don't have any true talent on that roster to really push it. And they're refusing to really let the kids come in and play and see what they got. So
I think they're going to be looming around that top draft pick this year. I have San Jose falling below them, but I don't think it's going to be far.
Yeah.
Do you guys both have the Kings missing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all had LA missing, just that Doughty injury, and then
I have them in.
Oh, you had them in?
I have them in, yeah.
Yeah, you had them as a wild card.
Yeah. I don't know. I like their top 9. I think they're going to struggle a bit. Like, it'll all really depend on which Kemper they're going to get, right? Like, they kind of invested a little bit in them for, like, they need to take on somebody to get rid of PLD, but who knows? Like, if he could be anywhere in between what he was in Washington compared to like Colorado and Arizona, I think they'll do just fine and kind of finish rate where I kind of have them. But it's surviving that Doughty injury because that leaves a massive hole on their back end. But Byfield's another year older, and I'm ready to see him kind of take another step forward.
That's the reason I kind of have them missing, is just because even if Byfield takes that step, like, their goaltending such a question mark on what type of goaltending they're going to get. Their defense to start, you're exposing your 2 bright young defensemen so early in the season, which really actually might be a good thing in the long run. But then last year, like, they have so many big name guys that are getting paid that just haven't produced for them. And if they're going to continue on that route, it's going to be tough, I think, for them, because you need to start scoring if you're LA, and you need guys like Fiala to play up to what his contract is. You need Byfield to take the step. And obviously Kopitar is going to be Kopitar, but there's so many guys that LA needs to kind of similar like when we get to St. Louis. I kind of had the same thought as them with the Kings. Like they're relying so much on internal growth that it's tough to really say how much of that will actually come true. But we can move on here. Kind of want to get back, touch on the Avalanche here. Obviously, as much as this pod's about, we go around the whole league and pay attention to the more storylines. All three of us are Avalanche fans if we're picking a team. So, I mean, boys, the rosters came out. Callum Ritchie making this team. Right now, they have him likely slotted in as a second line winger with Middlestat and Kovalenko. And then I mentioned him earlier, Ivan, just the surprise guy. I mean, 2 years ago, this guy got an American League contract, and then like he wasn't drafted or anything, just signed as a free agent and worked his way up, and now like he's just an energy bug player for the Avs. What's your guys' overall thoughts so like on what the roster looks like for Colorado going into the season here?
Is Ivan still eligible to play juniors?
No, he's too
No.
old.
Okay. I thought that would be interesting to see if they sent him back to Czechia for the World Juniors this year, but
No, one player actually I'm gonna be keeping an eye on for that is that Max Curran. Because I think he's a Czech and like
Yeah,
a fifth round draft pick, and like he's stuck around in the main camp a long time. And from everything I heard and kind of seen clips of, like they liked his game. Like he could be the next Kovalenko for the Avs of just a nice late round draft steal.
I like the point you made there earlier, Brock, about the Avs sort of working their, the next batch of guys into the roster. The guys like Kovalenko and Ritchie and Ivan and Malinsky, these guys that are coming up to be the supporting cast for our core here. Because I think that's been something that's been missing big time since the Cup win. We've been kind of just shifting a lot of different bodies around those bottom six, kind of guys that are in different stages of their NHL career instead of, digging into the prospect pool and letting guys develop into our system. So, I mean, that part for sure really excites me for the Avs roster this year. And, obviously it's probably not going to go as perfect as you like it somewhere along the way. I think, maybe one, maybe two of those guys don't quite turn into the player that we think they're going to be, but you hope you get something special out of, one of the guys.
I think out of all that, the nice thing is a lot of people's expectations on some of these guys isn't overly high. Like as long as they become NHL regulars, and then whatever they produce is what they produce. Right now, it's Callum Ritchie that's the big one in terms of you need him almost to develop into at worst kind of hybrid 2C 3C like bridge like kind of plateau player like that. He obviously has the talent to be a 2C in the NHL. But then, like you said, Trav, you gotta hope that they pan out because you look at guys like Foodie and Olsen who didn't make the team and their time's kind of ticking. I mean, Justin, you mentioned all this in the group chat. Like, how much of this was maybe the last kick at the can with the Avs organization for those two players?
I think really with Olausen, it's getting to that point. It's probably like kind of like a this year, and then he goes into kind of Martin Kaut territory. unfortunately last year he was having a good start to his year in the AHL and got injured and he missed a lot of time, but I guess he didn't really come back all that impressive. So I'd say for him more only reason because he was a first round pick and Foodie was a third, but you still want to see a bit more growth from both of those guys because there is a big opportunity here for them to start this year at the big club, and they just got beaten out by Richie and Ivan. I don't really have Kovalenko in this category just because I think he was pretty much a lock. I think he would have had to come in and been absolute dog shit to not make the team. Just the way he plays, I think it's really what they need in the third and fourth line. But yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in how Olausson's career has gone so far because I thought, with kind of what he was projected to be, kind of like a sniper, I thought he would have really fit into this team a lot easier than he's kind of made it for him to be. So we'll see what he does this year. I'm hoping he kind of finds a bit more of his game and is able to kind of turn it around. But the clock is getting pretty close to midnight with him, I think, before, they kind of just say, well, this isn't working out anymore. And who knows what he does. Like, I don't know if he'd make it anywhere else or he just heads back to Sweden. But I'm super impressed with Richie. I watched a little bit of preseason and he was playing on a line with Mac and Drouin, and he was not out of place at all. He was keeping up, making plays. Like he even said in an interview, he's like, this team used a first round pick on me. Like I needed to prove to them that like this was worth it. Like I had to have a big off season. And, that's the mentality you want from a guy, whether he's like your first overall or, wherever in the draft. Like that's a lot, they put a lot of capital into you to be the guy. And, so far he's very early, but it's looking like he could very well be like a roster mainstay for a long time.
The book on Richie too is always he makes elite players better. Like he's not maybe the guy that's going to really drive a line, but you put an elite player with him and it just flows so much better. So that's why we're starting him with a guy like Middlestack. Just those two, I think, will just feed off each other skill wise. So you brought up the injuries, and we kind of touched on in our group chat earlier with the news of Sean Burns being injured for the season. And then you just look at like Arturi Lehkonen starting this year on the shelf. Landeskog's lost 2 seasons. I mean, this franchise has just been hit hard with injuries since winning the Stanley Cup because it's derailed Foodie's career. Like he was developing and looked like he was going to start really pressing for a bottom 6 role with the Avs, and he got a big injury and hasn't quite recovered. Olausson last year. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, is there much to say other than you just pray that the hockey gods find like Colorado can hold off with all these injuries and the hockey gods finally start giving them some good fortune? Or is this maybe one where Colorado should start investing in a bit more money in their athletic therapists and medical team?
I'm not sure. Like, I see that comment online a bunch. I don't know. I think it's a lot of it's just kind of like freakish or just like these things happen. It just seems to be, it happens a ton to this squad and kind of all at once. Like, doesn't really seem to ever like kind of pan out over time. It's like when this roster gets hit with an injury bug, it gets hit a ton by it. And unfortunately, like lengthy ones at that.
Trav, you had something?
No, I was just like I was saying to you guys the other night how it feels like this team is consistently playing catch up with it. Like every time we get 1 or 2 guys back, we lose 2 or 3 guys. Like it just never seems like we've gotten to a comfortable playing ground with what our roster should be looking like. It always seems like somewhere along the way somebody is filling in for somebody else. And even last year when the playoffs began. Excluding Landeskog, I was like, okay, like this is the Avs team. I think like we've been waiting all year to see is these group of guys coming into the playoffs, and then Drouin gets that injury and he misses the whole first round. And as soon as he gets back, we lose Nichushkin, who was arguably, other than McDavid, was arguably the best player through the stint of the playoffs up until we lost him. Like you could argue Nichushkin was better than Makar and McKinnon on the Avs through their 2 rounds last year up until we lost him. So it just it's just frustrating, never feeling like we're on par with how we should be. And obviously we're never 100% there until we get our captain back, but the next level down from that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the guys that are currently on the shelf, Nichushkin, Lekin, and Landeskog, and you plug them into this offense, like you have one of those three playing third line. And if you have a guy like if Richie shows he can stick, all of a sudden you're probably looking for a new home for Ross Colton, trying and getting an asset for him because Richie's probably dropping down to play a 3C with either Lehkonen or Landeskog on his wing, along with maybe LOC. So, and that just drops Kovalenko down. So, it's not just that Colorado's dealt with injuries; they've dealt with injuries to like key guys and top 6 players. So, hopefully this season's different for them because I really want to see either. It'd be nice for Colorado and Dallas to have a playoff series when both teams are fully healthy and ready to go because those two are that would be an unreal 7-game series. But 24-25 NHL season's fully begun. Whether it's the sound of opening puck drop, skates carving up the ice, or that ping as your team goes bar down for a game winner, you can make the memories and catch all those sounds with Game Time. Game Time's Game Picks section on their website has now offered better curating to everyone's ideal ticket situation, whether it's for live sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater shows, whatever it is, Game Time has you covered. Seat viewing allows you to view what you're going to see from your seat before you even go. Along with Game Time's low price guaranteed, you'll always make sure to get the lowest price on tickets or you'll get 110% of your money back. So make sure to take the guesswork out of tickets with Game Time's picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? The puck is down and the 24-25 season is underway, which means the quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NHL. Whether you're a first-time bettor just looking for a simple pick team to win, or whether you're a seasoned bettor looking to do parlays and up your game, you get it all done at DraftKings Sportsbook app. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Central Division standings here, and we'll see how we have Colorado ranked among the rest of their divisions. So, Justin, if you want to go first.
Do you want me to run through it quick like last time?
Yeah, we'll just keep it simple there and not have to worry about making this too long of an episode for people.
Okay. All right. So I'll go quick. I got Stars, Preds, Avs, Utah, Minnesota, Jets, Blues, Hawks.
All right. Trav, what's your central?
I have the Stars, Avs, the Preds, and then I have the Jets, Utah as the 1-2 wild card, the Blues, the Wild, and the Blackhawks.
Fuck, Trav, we're close again. I got the Stars, Avs, Preds, Jets as my other wild card, and then I got the Blues, Utah, Minnesota, Chicago. So we kind of all agree here that Dallas is kind of the cream of the crop right now in the Central. I mean, if we're gonna nitpick anything, is it Dallas's kind of defense outside of Heiskanen? They don't really have like a true big name guy on that back end that can control a game where like because you look at a team like Colorado, Makar goes down, Taves is right there to kind of step up, not to the same level, but he's still a top 10, top 15 defenseman, whereas Dallas doesn't really have that. Is that just something maybe that Dallas is the one spot Dallas will look at to improve this season?
I think that's the one spot where they need to. Like, they don't have like a guy up like that, like the Avs do. They got two guys kind of waiting in like sort of that second tier in Harley and Lindell, I would say, but they definitely aren't really close to taking that, being like, oh, well, you can be our number one if something happens to Heiskanen. It's just not really there. But to be fair, not a lot of teams really have that compared to, Colorado. That's why, with Colorado's forward injury woes, they're still so dangerous because they have such a solid back end, top five now, I guess, with depending on how well Malinsky does here. But their top four defense is like pretty set and forget, right? So I think, like to answer your question, I think when Dallas decides to do something to improve their team, it will be on the back end.
You guys both had Utah making playoffs, and Justin, you had them fourth behind the big three there. Like, what do you guys see like that maybe I'm not as high on because I have them finishing sixth here? What is it about Utah's roster that drastically makes you think they're going to jump up to the playoff team that they haven't been in a while?
For me, not really much about the roster. I think these group of guys have kind of been together for quite a long time and they kind of know what's up. Other than, they did a bit of reconstruction on the defense, which I liked. I think they're just ready to pop off. I think they got out of this horrible situation in Arizona. I think that'll kind of do wonders for their locker room and kind of morale going out and being like, wow, we're in a place that actually is going to support us like crazy, a full barn. They have a ton of money still. They got about $9 million in cap. So I feel like if they get off to a real good start or they're in a real good position by the trade deadline, like with this owner, like the way he wants to run things, they're going to absolutely be buying on whatever is available. And I really don't think there's going to be like any sort of spending limit with this team anymore. So I just think it'll be like kind of like the morale thing. It's just a brand new, like the chains are off of this team. They're not stuck in the desert anymore. I just think they'll have a somewhat special year.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like JC said, a lot of guys are going to pop off this year. I think that's the big thing for me, why I have them where I do. I think they made the right choice and really the only choice to make Clayton Keller their captain. And I think, again, like JC said, they're gonna I think take advantage this year of an opportunity. I think the West as a whole The last couple of years, it's been very evident that the East is stronger than the West. I thought last year the West took a step forward, and this year, at least right now at the start of the season, I feel like the West stepped back again from where they were last year, the entire conference as a whole. And that's why I think Utah is ready to kind of just jump in there and grab one of those spots.
So, Trav, how many points did Washington have as the 8th seed last year in the East?
Wasn't it 89?
91.
Okay.
How many points did Vegas have as the 8th seed?
94? 95?
98.
Okay.
I think everyone's perception of the West being weaker is because they have more of the bottom feeders of the league, but the top end of the Western Conference is just as strong as the East, if not better when you go down 8 teams in terms of playoffs. Because St. Louis got 94 points last year and missed the playoffs by 5 points. And how is that? Like most teams that when you say you got 95 points and didn't make the playoffs, you're basically saying, yeah, we missed by 1 point. Whereas you looked in the East, so many teams just muddled around and didn't do much that Washington was able to secure with 91, which really should be a team that's finishing 9th or 10th in that conference's standings and not 8th.
I think the East as well, though, just to kind of add to my point, I think the East also kind of took a step back this year. And again, that's just right now I'm saying that because we're sitting at the start of the season. That's what I'm seeing. That opinion might change as the season goes on and we see who looks like the real deal this year. But I just think both, I guess really the league as a whole, right now it seems to me like it's not quite on the level as it was last year. I think there's just less powerhouses.
I think that's just the salary caps playing such restraints on teams because you can only spend so much money. And now too, I mean, at least Utah's out of Arizona and has an owner that wants to spend. So you're going to have less dead cap for them to just take on. But yeah, no, I agree with you on that, Trav, where it does seem the league just kind of as a whole took a step back because the talent has had to be shifted and spread out across all 32 teams rather than conjugate onto about 20 teams that are going to really push for a playoff spot. But what's final thought here on this? What's your guys' thoughts? I mean, we all had Chicago finishing basement of this division. What about how big of a step forward are they taking this year though?
Barely. I think they're right there, ready to not finish in the basement. Like I had the Blues, Wild, and Blackhawks as my bottom 3, and maybe to some people they might say the Blues is a hot take, but I think those 3 are interchangeable down there. I could see the Hawks finishing as high as 6th.
I think they'll be better. They're not going to be a second overall pick sort of deal. Like I see them finishing more, like 7th, 8th worst in the league, maybe, and that's finishing bottom of the Central. There's still a bit of growth there. There's still a bit of talent and things that they need on that team, but they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. And I kind of agree with Trav. My bottom 3 had the Jets, Blues, and Hawks. I don't know. Maybe the Blues are a bit too low. It's just when you get down to those 3 or 4 teams, I'm really unsure about where they would all finish. They're going to be better. They're not going to be great, but they're going to be, I don't know, would you say maybe 10, 15 points better than they were last year?
Yeah. That still puts them up towards the 70 70-ish points or so. So
Oh yeah, so, yeah, they might be even more than that, really. But yeah, I'm interested in watching like a year Bedard who's got like a bit more around him too. But you know, their defense is still very suspectable. Same with their goaltending. So
Speaking of Bedard, I haven't watched any Chicago preseason games, but from highlights I've seen, I think the league should be on lookout. Just I'm watching Bedard, and he looks more and more comfortable every time he touches the puck. You know, I think just being a smaller guy, last year he showed, you know, flashes of brilliance, had a great year, but I just think there's that that timid factor of an 18-year-old in the league, and it already looks like that's starting to go away through what I've seen in the preseason. So I think everybody's in the league should be on lookout, because I think this kid's just about to blow it up.
what's your guys' thoughts? 40 goals, about a 40-40, 40-50 player this year. I mean, 40 goals, upwards of 80 to 90 points for Bedard.
I'll say 46 goals, 92 points.
yeah, I have a number of like 42 to 44 goals in my mind. So yeah, 88, 90 points probably.
Yeah, I think kind of right in that mid 40s. I mean, you got Teravainen able to feed you passes now off the rush and off cycles. So, and yeah, I mean, like you said, Trev, just more comfortable in the league. And again, Matthews might be the only guy in the league that has a shot to rival Bedard's. His release is just wicked. So it's gonna be fun watching how he just grows in his sophomore year here. Final piece of business, boys, before you wrap things up. President's Trophy. I got Dallas winning the President's Trophy this year. I think they are hungry after what happened against the Oilers last year in the playoffs, and they're just going to try to steamroll their way through, especially with the youth movement of Bork and Stankoven coming in full time. They're just going to flex their muscles offensively, and with Ottinger in the net, that teams aren't really going to have much of a shot with them in the regular season.
Yeah, I had Stars too. I don't like. There's a part of me that wanted to go Oilers. I can't right now because of kind of the way I feel about their defense and goaltending. I think they'll be really good, but I'm just looking at the four teams that I picked to win the division. I don't think the Rangers repeat. I think Florida does well, doesn't get there. So it kind of just leaves me with the Stars. This is one of the tougher ones I had to pick, and there's only four teams to choose out of.
Yeah.
I got the Rangers running it back, which is pretty rare these days. But I just think they have all the tools to just have another phenomenal season. Kind of going hand in hand too about the point I just made a few minutes ago about how I think the entire league kind of took a step back. I think the Rangers are the pretty much identical team to last year, and I think they have pretty much an identical season and an identical result. And in saying that, and I said this, I think, on last season, and Brock, you kind of added to it when you said the New York Rangers now are reminiscent of the Sharks in the early 2010s. And that is exactly how I feel about them. I feel like they have all the pieces there, but they just, I don't know what it is. I just can't see them getting over the cup ump. So I think it'll be another deep exit for them this year.
All right. That's all of our Western Conference predictions. President's Trophy now. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in, snapping around. Hit the subscribe button if you like this. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the like button. Check out our merch Obviously, it's a lot better than the sweater I'm wearing, but it's all updated again. Season has started. The puck is dropped on the NHL 24-25 season. It's just good to have hockey back. So catch you all next week, and thanks again for tuning in.